In the spring, I put 2 articles on the warrant for town meeting, one to abandon property tax and the other to form a municipal-owned CDFI. Both arrived out of the blue and were a challenge for people to digest. And hopefully, you'll get a better sense of where I was coming from and why I picked those 2 things as a solution. But we're actually not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the foundations of what is wrong. And we're here today to talk about big mistakes. Big mistakes have 3 parts. 1, how they come into being. 2, how to recognize them in yourself and others. And 3, their root cause and how to fix them. First up, how do mistakes come into being? It begins with the language itself. For example, let's look at the 2 words, big mistakes. Big refers to size or quantity. Mistake refers to quality. Size is simple enough. We know the difference between more or less. Quality is always related to a purpose. How else could you define a mistake? It's like separating the wheat from the chaff. The wheat will feed us, the chaff will make us sick. They are objectively different things. For the purpose of feeding ourselves, we apply a judgment to determine if something is good to eat or a mistake. Judgment is always based on experience of some sort, either personal or collective. Can some people eat chaff and not get sick? Can people lie and say the chaff tastes good? Claim it was nutritious and didn't make them sick? Lots of possibilities exist, even in the simplest of things. But logically, everything reduces down to a binary. One choice is better or best, and that's why we are able to use the term mistake. People can easily reject tradition, correction, or advice. Everybody was a stupid teenager, and nothing is easier than being wrong about anything. There are an infinite number of wrong answers to the equation 2 + 2 = x. It is a given that we will make personal mistakes. It's part of maturing. The promise of democracy is that collectively we will make fewer mistakes. The root of how we make mistakes is when we conflate quantity and quality. It's supremely important to recognize that quantity and quality are as separate as the wheat and the chaff. Anarcha said of democracy, it is a system where the wise speak and the fools decide. He was recognizing that quantity and quality can easily be conflated. The Bill of Rights exists primarily to protect the minority from the majority. Yet democracy is a system of majority rule. There is a tension between quantity and quality that the Constitution recognizes. Every new idea is automatically heresy. But that doesn't mean it's wrong. We get comfortable in the repetition of a particular bias, and it's how the blind follow the blind. Believing that quantity is the same as quality is a mistake. Orwell coined the word doublethink, which was believing 2 mutually exclusive ideas simultaneously. Through the ages, it has had a lot of different terms: hypocrisy, contradictions, forked tongue, double standards, etc. They are generally based on conflating quantity and quality. It's like saying we will split it 50-50 and then count out 90 for one and 10 for the other and saying it's even. Doublethink is a huge problem. There is a tension between quantity and quality, but they are also inseparable, like a train track. 2 rails traveling side by side, never intersecting. It's an important relationship. When we get it right, it creates a beautiful balance. Quality is fundamentally more important than quantity. We want the wheat, not the chaff. Ideally, we have both quantity and quality. Our cup runneth over with good stuff, and not be overwhelmed with bad stuff. Both good and evil can multiply and compound. Smart manufacturing finds a purpose for waste product, in effect, refining for another purpose while producing for a different purpose. Henry Ford had components shipped to his factory in a specifically designed wooden crate. The wood became the floorboards to the cars. Stupid manufacturing is engineering obsolescence so a replacement product can be sold in the near future. It's a form of self-sabotage and consumer persecution because the desire for more money has overridden a fidelity to quality. This is colloquially the race to the bottom. Since this is now a common part of business strategy, it's no surprise that the nation is suffering. We have abandoned common sense for selfishness. Democracy reflects this problem too. More people voting does not mean the decisions are better. If low-quality decisions are common, then mistakes are everywhere. Both the good and bad can spread. It is up to us to decide what we will spread. Tolstoy wrote, "The truth is like gold, not by letting it grow bigger, but by washing off from it everything that isn't gold." Here again, we see how quantity and quality have a relationship to each other, but he is careful not to conflate them. Principles must precede policies, and principles should be tested as well, with impurities constantly being removed. Tradition is a guide, not the rule, and the only way to repair a problem and improve is to change. Problems magically present themselves. We don't need to create them purposely. That well could be the definition of insanity. Yet, we see it in business and politics, organized efforts to disrupt others and create problems rather than working to lift everybody up simultaneously. Violence is the ultimate act of idiocy and insanity. That's the first part of this talk. How do mistakes begin? We conflate quantity and quality. The next part is how to recognize mistakes in yourself and others. My opinion of the truth is simple. Truth does not change. We must change to meet it. Every generation has the same task before it, to separate the wheat from the chaff. We stand on the shoulders of the past, but we also inherit their mistakes and are generally indoctrinated into a form of cultural blindness. Their mistakes become our mistakes. That's everybody's baseline. We can love and learn from our literal and figurative forebears and grow to think completely differently from them. If we can gather more truth than they did, then they have done their job well. The student becoming wiser than the teacher is a healthy rhythm of life. Refinement of the truth is pure and simple and should be welcomed by all. Some will move slower than others, and that's okay. We all hunger for the essence of things. We are not spectators, we are participants. We influence one another and grow together. E pluribus unum. A more perfect union requires action, and action requires choice. So how do we recognize mistakes? Everything we understand began from a process of comparative analysis. Saying quantity is different from quality is itself comparative analysis, just like separating the wheat from the chaff is comparative analysis. Do not confuse choice with analysis. Having good taste, spending money, a sense of fashion, these are vanities, not truths. In our consumer culture, we are far too proud of our shopping choices, brand identification, and team affiliation. Consumption is not an accomplishment. It's a necessity. To consume, we must produce, however. All work should be producing something of value, not hate, deception, or waste. Orwell coined the term groupthink. Groupthink reinforces doublethink. A single person's error becomes a group error, and then an orthodoxy and a tradition. Rather quickly, we have groups working against groups rather than individuals all sharing the same wisdom. And this is where big becomes a problem. Comparative analysis should not become the basis of entitlement and privilege. Slave masters being jealous of a king is somewhat idiotic. How do you complain about your lost liberty while keeping people ignorant and in chains? It's a huge contradiction, but that's what happens when you conflate quantity and quality. The basis of society is the division of labor. Creating for others is our only achievement. Others create for our consumption too. Taoism has a line that says something like, to produce but not possess. John Lennon wasn't the first one to imagine no possessions. And I'm pretty sure the Taoists would not agree to copyright law. It's a contradiction. For the division of labor to be successful, we must be able to discern good from bad. We have problems primarily because a division of labor has generated a division of understanding, and we have compounded that challenge with the division of rewards. Big is not going to solve problems like liberty, equality, and freedom, nor will small. Putting 13 colonies together under the Constitution didn't solve anything, and breaking them apart to north and south wasn't going to solve anything. Size has nothing to do with quality. We can't grow the economy into a better society without justice first. Too many towns think economic growth is a solution to budget issues and political conflict. It's not. The problems will simply scale up as things get bigger. We've been doing this for 250 years. The Pilgrims were hungry when they landed in Plymouth, and there is a hunger problem after centuries of growth. Growth has us all walking on a tightrope. It forces us to carry a bigger and heavier bar to retain any balance. At some point, the bar is too unwieldy. To quote Thomas Paine's common sense, we must recognize that we furnish the means by which we suffer. And if many hands make light work, then how we have arranged our affairs is improper, and it is not the fault of the king. He is gone. This fact is undeniable. We must all be part of the problem. The question is, where? Our doublethink and groupthink is not superior to someone else's doublethink and groupthink. We have seen all the same problems regardless of what party is in charge, under monarchy, socialism, communism, monarchy, Nazism, the Bolsheviks, libertarians, etc. Everybody is struggling to find balance, both qualitatively and quantitatively. The cause must be fairly obvious, consistent across different cultures. Part 2 was recognizing the mistakes of ourselves and others. We do it by using comparative analysis. So far, we've been discussing primarily quality concepts in the word mistake. Now we have to discuss the quantitative big side of the fray, and this is all about bookkeeping and mathematics. It's quite simple. Does 2 plus 2 equal 4 or not? All of our systems are based on a percentage added, 2 plus 2 equals 5. The big mistake has to be because of money. It's the only thing that unites across time and culture and philosophy. The cause must be evident in the math. But before we get deeper, a few observations. I believe in democracy. I want it to be true. But a good and virtuous society requires good and virtuous people. Democracy is just a way of making decisions. Process and quality are as unrelated as size and quality. Every society requires a rock-solid definition of what is good and virtuous. It doesn't matter if it is one person writing the laws or 340 million. Society requires decisions based on the truth. If people obey the law and the law is wrong, then we are spreading mistakes and moving away from the truth. Ethics and morality are components of the truth, and like any other talent, must be trained to become strong and skilled. Calling things a tradition or a right or the natural laws of the marketplace are an attempt to short-circuit critical thinking and comparative analysis. It moves the topic from the problem and the truth to the individual's desires and temptations. Claims of rights act as a shield of deniability. God did not give us any rights. Ezra Stiles observed, God gave us the opportunity to live a righteous and holy life. That's it. We all get the same deal. The divine rights of kings is just as farcical as the divine rights of citizens. We have an obligation to the truth and to each other. Political rights are a human concept, and they need to be consistent with the truth, both quantitatively and qualitatively, to work. A system based on truth has little conflict. It's contradictions that kill us. We are part of a long process of evolution, and we are also driving the process simultaneously and directing it from within. We must reap what we sow. If we don't like what we have, we must include ourselves in our analysis. We all own a share of the big mistake. Ideas themselves are good or bad, true or false, right or wrong. Ideas rule the world, not men. We choose which ideas to animate. The results speak to our choices. We need to grasp the consequences of the numbers we write down. As individuals, it may seem impossible or difficult, but it isn't. And collectively, it gets much easier with momentum. The first thing we need to understand is the power of a geometric progression, or the power of compounding. If 50 people had a sheet of paper, and each one folded it in half, when you put them all together, it'd be 100 pages thick. Not a big deal. But if one person took a piece of paper, and they were to fold it in half 50 times, after 7 folds, it would be very difficult. It would be less than an inch thick and be very tough to do. So if we use a paper cutter instead, and we start with the biggest sheet of paper, and we keep cutting that slice of paper in half, and put the pile on top of each other again and again. So let's say the paper cutter has a 10-inch throat to it. After 11 cuts, the paper would be over a foot thick, would no longer fit in the paper cutter. So at 24 steps, that pile would be 1.5 miles thick. That's 24 steps isn't very many. At 30 steps, the pile would be 105 miles thick. At 40 steps, the pile would be 107,000 miles thick. And at 50 steps, the pile would be 100 million miles. Far enough to reach to the sun. One more step at 51, we could reach to the sun and back. That is the power of compounding. It is mind-boggling. Math is powerful, and it's key to our understanding of the universe. If we compounded a penny 50 times, it comes out to $11 trillion. To understand the economy, we must grasp the power of compounding and respect it and fear it. How does 50 transactions create such a massive number? The national debt is $36 trillion. We have compounded 1 cent about 53 times. We have midpoint between 22 trillion, which was 2019, and 44 trillion. Today we're at 36. When I understood this originally, the debt was 5.7 trillion. That was all in our lifetime. It doubles about every 8 years. Another good way to understand the economy is from the game Monopoly. Everybody starts out equal. Everybody gets paid the same $200 for pass and go. There's no government, no taxes. It's a libertarian paradise of a perfect free market. It's also a socialist paradise of equal pay and regulated prices. It differs from our reality in that everyone is living a cash-only experience. There is no borrowing or credit to speak of. There are no banks or insurance companies, no employees. Everybody is self-employed. You can mortgage your properties if you get in trouble, but you can't buy anything on credit. After a few trips around the board, what started out so promising ends in total economic collapse. New growth quickly becomes a big bust. One person wins, everyone else loses. It's the exact opposite of what democracy promises. The only way to fix it in real life is to keep pumping money into the game, hence the 36 trillion national debt. There is almost as much debt in personal and business debt. So where does all the money go? It continues to migrate to the top automatically. The more debt we create, the richer the rich will get. This is a mathematical fact. It's not about rigging the system, inheritance, slavery, politics, America, or capitalism versus socialism. It is mathematical cause and effect, just like folding that piece of paper. It is a consequence of how we handle money. The ubiquitousness of percentage added is all recorded in our bookkeeping systems. We know exactly where the problem lies. With the rise of computers, we have accelerated the problem. Quantity and quality are getting faster and farther apart. Why? Because when you compound an imbalance, the imbalance must grow. Everybody's revenue is somebody else's expense. That's why growth hasn't solved the qualitative problems of inequality, volatility, and inflation. Monopoly game demonstrates the math perfectly. Growth in pricing is feeding the problem. The price can be taxes, profits, wages, or interest. Trying to increase revenue to cope with inflation increases someone else's expense, which in turn increases the inflation we are trying to escape. More can't be the solution. Only quality can be the solution. The math must follow the truth. We must follow the math. We can chart this. The important thing is history. We are not the first society to experience this problem. We are heading either towards civil war or a renaissance. I am here today on the side of a future renaissance. The only way to get there is to think differently and act differently than what we are doing today. The town has an $86 million municipal budget. The townspeople probably have 2 or 3 times that. We have more than enough capacity to push back against the status quo, set an example for others, and liberate ourselves from the current cultural and mathematical madness. What is the goal? The goal is to get everyone out of debt and to stop inflation. It is impossible to have a stable economy with people in debt. It's also impossible with governments and businesses in debt. Inflation is an unstable economy by definition. 2% inflation is 2% too much, whether it is property tax or shrinking candy bars. If my analysis is true, then we have a way to fix the problems that plague society. The challenge is only spreading the message. If we can end monarchy after thousands of years, if we can explore the deepest recesses of outer space by thinking through comparative analysis, if we can create virtual thinking machines, then surely we are capable of something as simple as writing down different numbers. Mark Cuban, the billionaire, recently started a company called Cost Plus Drugs, where he's selling pharmaceuticals at cost plus 15% plus $5 shipping. I plugged in one of my prescriptions, and the cost was half of what I pay now. His markup is actually too high. Imagine if the pharmaceutical manufacturer priced at cost plus 15%. There would be a lot less problems in healthcare. What does it cost to pick an apple from a tree? We are still in Eden. The planet is a gift to all mankind. All we need to do is cooperate amongst ourselves. We simply need better operational standards and bookkeeping sanity, rather than the ridiculous fiction of a free market and a blind faith in growth. Writing down different numbers is a better plan. That is the problem we are struggling with. It's numerical. No bloodshed required, no demonization of people, just fix the math. Everybody can be happy and free. Big mistakes require big solutions, but in all cases, the micro is the macro, and the ends and the means are the same. We can only have a wise government if the people themselves are wise. A wise government will generate wise people. That is the symbiotic relationship democracy promises. The Orwell trifecta is doublethink, groupthink, and thought crime. Thought crime is critical of anyone who disagrees, but we should all disagree with history. We need it to understand how we got here, but to navigate into the future, we must recognize its faults. MLK said, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." The same is true of basic mathematics. We are all connected. 2 + 2 = 4. Buy low, sell high is killing us. We need to buy low and sell low. With deficit financing, the government can actually buy low and sell lower until everyone is out of debt and everything is easily affordable. Money only exists as paper or as numbers on paper. It's not real, as the native tribes rightly understood. It's a tool, however, and we are using it improperly. The book of Leviticus says not to charge profit or interest. It has been proven correct mathematically. Percentages added destroy the social fabric. There are 4 types of revenue, depending upon the organization type. Government has taxes, businesses have profits, banks have interest, and workers have wages. We have had a revolution over each type. 9/11 and jihadism was over interest. Communist revolutions were over profits. Democratic revolutions were over taxes. Percentages added are the problem. We can't escape the consequences of compounding numbers. Truth does not change. We must change to meet it. Democracy gives us the ability to change the conditions we live under. We should embrace the opportunity. In summary, don't conflate quantity and quality. Use comparative analysis and remove impurities. Understand the math. A better world is possible. Thank you.